Hi, Danhausen here, Very Nice, Very Evil, and we're welcoming you to the Potsy and Danhausen Show.
Yes.
Correct?
No, it's the Potsy and Tino show.
No. Potsy and Danhausen Show, I'll be taking my royalties.
Absolutely.
And like, subscribe, comment, and watch it. You better be watching it because we're already here, or be cast.
It's the Potsy and Tino show. Talk the facts and let opinions blow. Laughs, hot takes, and maybe a rant. Two best buds with a mic and a plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Pots and Pans Network brings to its tag team champion of the world. That's right. The road dog, Tino Gray, is not with us. He's out with his wife, Nicole, for her birthday. So happy birthday, Nicole. Hope you're having a wonderful time. And, you know, maybe it's a good thing Tino's not here tonight because I'm sure I'm going to get into some anger management issues that I might have with WWE programming right now. But that's later because right now, we got Michael Turner in the audience. How you doing, buddy? And we're going to get started with What's Up With You. So this past weekend was Easter, as most of you know. And I won't go into religious aspects of it. I didn't partake in religious aspects of the holiday. But I will say that I went down to Myrtle Beach this weekend to hang out with my sister and brother-in-law. Had a great time. Played mini golf 2 days in a row, knocking down 36 holes per day, which was pretty awesome. Also got to eat some really good food while I was down there. So always a good time when I get to hit the beach area. So pretty happy with that. Glad to hear you are doing well, Michael. I am as well. Times have been pretty all right at the moment. You know, I'm getting ready for the licensing convention in May. I'm getting ready for the library convention. Let's just call it that. Getting ready for the library convention in June, as well as Heroes Con in June, and then San Diego in July. And then who knows? Maybe some other shows will want me at their events. I will be at Dragon's Lair on Free Comic Book Day this year, so May 2nd, I believe it is this year. First Saturday in May, I will be at Dragon's Lair in Fayetteville, North Carolina, hanging out with my buddy Bernie and the crew over there. So come out, see us. We'll have the Keen Spot toy box as well as the Keen Spot sampler, which will be all the different things coming out over the next year, both in the all ages as well as the teens to adults areas. So some fun stuff coming up with all that. Other than that, though, you know, because I was out of town, I finished my trivia game. I designed some new trivia merch. So if you go on to my TeePublic site, teepublic.com/users/Rob Potsy Potchak, you can actually go ahead and, you know what, I'll go ahead and I'll put that up on the screen for everybody. Because we've got our Potsy and Tino stuff up there right now. You know, like the shirt I'm wearing, you know, the God of War style logo design for this one. But got some new stuff up for trivia with Potsy. Got one that says crazy about trivia. So you know, if you are a trivia nut like I am a trivia connoisseur, then go ahead and order some merch. Over the next couple of weeks, I'll have the shirts actually for myself, so I'll probably start wearing them, you know, and filtering them through my regular t-shirt wearing. So with that, nothing else really going on from this end. Was trying to catch up on some TV. As most of you know, I don't have cable TV, so I don't get USA Network anymore. So I had to catch up on all the SmackDown stuff by actually looking it up on YouTube. Though at some point I'll get my VPN thing figured out, so that way I can likely be watching it via that. It might be something where I have to go back to an older version of Netflix if they've updated their software. But yeah, so hopefully everyone else had a good holiday. Hopefully everybody had a day off or two. That would be nice if you did. Carolina Hurricanes won their game on Saturday, but then got blown out on Sunday in a back-to-back. They were at home for the first game and then had to fly up to Ottawa to play the second game at 5:00 yesterday afternoon and just got destroyed. So luckily they've already clinched a playoff spot. Hopefully they're going to clinch a high playoff spot. But as of right now, the team's still playing. Got a couple more games to go. I think they've got 5 games to go, and they can actually clinch the top spot if they continue to win. However, again, as of yesterday, they lost. They have 104 points. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from there. With TV watching, those of you that didn't know, The Boys comes back this week with its final season. So Boys Season 5 launches Wednesday. They, as far as I know, are launching with 2 episodes. So we will we'll get to see what's going on with Homelander, Huey, Butcher, and the rest of the crew, including Soldier Boy, who's going to be featured in it. I heard pretty extensively. So I'm pretty excited about that. And this past week we got 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again as well. So I've been kept busy with that. Scrubs, Shrinking. I think Your Friends and Neighbors actually came back on Friday, so I'm going to have to hop on Apple TV and take a look at that. And then, of course, with wrestling, we had Stand and Deliver this past weekend. We had SmackDown on Friday night, revealing who Randy Orton's caller is, and I'm sure that the chat, as well as myself, are going to be voicing opinions there. Scrubs had another great episode. I really am hoping, because I think that was episode 6 of 9 for them. I'm really hoping that ABC decides they're going to renew them for a season 2. They've got a lot of things planned for season 2 that they weren't able to get to in only 9 episodes of season 1. So hopefully they get at least a 10-episode order, if not a full season. And then I don't know if anybody's been watching Shrinking. So I've been watching the show, and episode 10 was this week. And episode 10 kind of felt like it was going to be the end of the season. And for anybody that doesn't know, Shrinking was picked up for season 4 in January. But the creative minds behind the show actually said that they only created 3 seasons for it. So I think they added an 11th episode at the 11th hour, if you will, because the final episode really felt like it left a lot to be desired. Like, it felt like a season finale, but it felt like it was definitely meant to be a downer episode, and it really was a downer episode. So I'm hoping they come back with more of an upper to end season 3 and lead into season 4, which apparently is going to be an all new story with the same cast. So I think, if anybody else has watched the show, that they're going to have a whole new setting for season 4. I think that all the characters that are currently involved are probably going to move east. So right now they're based in, I believe, California, and I think that they're all going to move east for season 4. Memory of a Killer, I think we're almost at the season finale. If we're not actually at the season finale, it's been excellent. There's been some big reveals in that show that are really good twists. Tracker, same show it always is. I talk about the flaws of the show almost every week, but I still watch it pretty religiously. And while Tino's not here, I won't go into Watson. We won't be able to talk about it next week because that'll be our 450th episode. And I promised him we were just going to do What's up, Mr. Helios? I promised Tino we were only going to do predictions next week, so we'll probably invite on Mr. Helios. I believe we're going to invite on our friend CJ and maybe VZ Presidente to see if those guys want to give their WrestleMania predictions, because I will be going over the WrestleMania card thus far. And breaking news, about 2 hours ago, they mentioned that Joe Tessitore will be on Get Up tomorrow at 9:35 Eastern to explain which matches are going to be on night 1 and which matches are going to be on night 2. So we won't have to wait too much longer to have that information, and they're going to do it tomorrow on ESPN's Get Up at 9:35. So yeah, that's pretty much everything in terms of what I've been watching. Tonight's episode right now, we're chugging right along. Looks like we're not going to be taking too much time. Figure I'll go ahead and give a quick update on the comics that I've got coming up. My 2-page stories for the free comic book day books. So the 4 pages that we've done for that, 2 for Zord, 2 for Junior High Horrors, are completely done. Those books will actually be in stores on free comic book day just in less than a month now. And Zor, the spooky special, is fully penciled. It's fully plotted. I am probably going to take this week to do the dialoguing for that one, and then jump right back onto the Junior High Horrors Mikey birthday book. Both are scheduled for September releases, so make sure that when you hear it here, if you're looking to get those books, that you hop on and to your local comic shop and try to order them. Also, if you guys can, if you go to ringgoawards.com, so if you go to ringgoawards.com, here comes right there, you have the opportunity to help us get our books nominated for some awards, like Best Children's Book, ages 11 and under. We're trying to get the Zor Saves Christmas special. I am trying to be up for Best Writer of the Year. I know that I'm up against, Tom King, Scott Snyder, Jeff Johns, Brian Michael Bendis, whoever. So I'm not really expecting to get enough votes to be nominated for that one. But Best Humor Book, Died Hard, came out mostly last year, so it qualifies. Zor Saves Christmas for Best Single Issue, or I think they're calling it Best Short Story now, as well as Best Kids Book, 11 and under. So if you can, please go on to ringgoawards.com. Each of those will have its own line. You can go ahead and fill them in. It'd be really great if we could get as many people possible with as many email addresses as possible to go ahead and nominate all those books. And like I said, possibly me as best writer or whatever. If you've enjoyed my stories, it would be really helpful. So with that, I guess we can jump in to our wrestling review. And I am going to go ahead and start with Monday Night Raw. Let me make sure I pull up the results. So our match card for last Monday night, CM Punk and Roman Reigns, under the same roof, by the way, happened at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. They also announced an appearance by Brock Lesnar, a Finn Balor promo, a World Tag Team Championship street fight with the Usos versus the Visions, Logan Paul and Austin Theory, Bayley and Lyra Valkyria versus Lash Legend and Nia Jax for the Women's World Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, Penta versus Kofi Kingston, and Io Sky versus Raquel Rodriguez. So we got a couple things to talk about here. First thing, what do you want to talk about? How about why was Cody Rhodes and Stephanie McMahon on Monday Night Raw? The show opened with Cody's music hitting, and I have to say, I did not like this because it led to something later on during the night that really kind of upset me, and that's this. So on this card, they mentioned a Finn Balor promo. Well, that Finn Balor promo, there it goes. That Finn Balor promo got cut to like an off-screen, he wasn't in the building segment where it was just a vignette. And they gave Cody Rhodes and Stephanie McMahon. Now, by the way, Cody Rhodes is the champion of SmackDown, not of Monday Night Raw. I have a huge problem with them not giving Dominic and Finn due time because they're going, well, Cody Rhodes wants to be able to talk about what's going on with Randy Orton. So what do? Instead of him getting a chance to really talk about that, they bring Stephanie McMahon out because it's the world's most famous arena, and she makes mention of her grandpappy. That's right. She doesn't mention the name Vince McMahon. She does not mention the name Vincent K. McMahon or J. McMahon. So we end up, we get her implying, because she said it was the house her grandfather built. And then she says, Cody, as much as you talk about your father, you're not your father. And then, of course, Cody jabs back with, well, Steph, you're not yours either. Waste of a segment, if you ask me, especially since it had no implications on what Friday night meant. So, what a waste. They only did it because it was Madison Square Garden. They only did it because they thought Cody would get more butts in seats. And unfortunately, that really detracts from one of the matches that you've set up for WrestleMania, which is Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor. And then they're not even on the program 2 weeks before WrestleMania? Fuck that. It's garbage. I don't know what you guys think. Go ahead, put it in the comments. I was not a fan of this Cody Rhodes segment. And then, of course, it ended with the classic Stephanie McMahon slaps Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes grabs her by the arm, and instead of letting her leave, he just tells her, I've got 2 words for you. And the crowd yells, suck it. And Cody Rhodes just says, thank you. With a little poo-poo face. He's not happy about that again. Bleacher Report gave the segment an A. I thought the segment fell flat. Tino would probably sit there and say that it did its job. I'll go ahead and give Tino his credit there because I guess maybe it did. But it really took away from what's going on Monday Night Raw by having a SmackDown superstar on there. Michael Turner says he thought the segment was okay. I mean, it was fine. It's just, it took away from Dominic and Finn. Like, those guys should have had the 20 minutes to do something with. You know, maybe put Finn Balor against JD McDonough and have Dominic get involved with it. So, all right. Let's get back to actual Raw results. As my computer keeps trying to pull up teams in basketball for some reason. So immediately after this, and I don't know why they just didn't start with this, we get the street fight for the World Tag Team Championship. And for those that didn't watch last week, I Show Speed was cursed by Danhausen. So, of course, Adam Pearce, to make up for it, says, Speed, you're obviously not cursed because you've got front row seats tonight. So he goes out and he's standing out there, and basically this match is the same exact shit we've seen from these two teams. Bleacher Report gives it a C+. I'm going to say that that's about as best of a score as you could give it. Could be the best match that they've had all year, and yet we see them every week. Last week, I actually talked about how they have been feuding with each other since last year. And I'm not just saying last year, I'm saying since right after WrestleMania. After Jey Uso got done with Gunther, he's been involved with the Vision ever since. So that's like 8 months, 9 months. I'm tired of it. It's boring. Stop showing me that bullshit. I am done with it. But the Vision go over, they win the tag team championships, and the way it happens is I Show Speed accidentally hits LA Knight when LA Knight has the brass knuckles in tow. So that causes them to distract the Usos. The Usos end up losing the match, and we have new tag team champions. The other thing I didn't really care for, the new Uso theme music, which means the Jey Uso experiment is over. We might get singles matches with them, similar to how we used to get Hawk in the Road Warriors, but we are not getting Jey Uso main event single star going forward. They are the Usos again. Failed experiment, if you will. We got a Liv Morgan promo. Liv Morgan basically sits there and says, "You're done for, bitch." Her tone, this one, Liv Morgan looks like she's been putting in work at the gym. Michael, I agree with you. They're definitely gonna. I hope you're being sarcastic when you say what you want to see is Speed and Jelly at WrestleMania, because I don't care that they're actually going to be on the show. I mean, like, let's be honest. WWE is always trying to promote different celebrities at WrestleMania. I mean, going back to as far as Liberace singing "America the Beautiful" one year, or Pamela Anderson and Jenny McCarthy both showing up one year. I mean, yes, they're more attractive than I Show Speed and Jelly Roll, but you go with what's actually going in your favor at this point. Liv Morgan delivered the chair-assisted Oblivion and stood tall with her Judgment Day teammate. A lot of people think that after WrestleMania, Liv Morgan's going to move into a... Oh, you don't want to see them, because what you wrote was you do want to see them. So Michael does not want to see Jelly Roll and I Show Speed. Let me go ahead and make sure everybody sees that. I don't want to see. All right. Women's Tag Team Championship, Lyra Valkyria and Bayley versus Lash Legend and Nia Jax. This basically ends with Nia Jax and Lash Legend winning via disqualification. Let me just say that I think what they're doing is they're setting up Bayley and Lyra to win these titles at WrestleMania, specifically because they've now, including SmackDown, which I know that I'll get to a little bit later, but including SmackDown, they lost both matches that they were in this week. Another C+ match. So Bleacher Report said that Bayley is on a hot streak in terms of her in-ring work, but she's been losing almost every match except she did well in that gauntlet match and got a singles title match out of it. So then we get, I'm probably skipping backstage segments because Bleacher Report doesn't necessarily go into them. But we get a Brock Lesnar promo where Paul Heyman comes out and starts running down Oba Femi, saying he's overhyped Femi. And while he's doing this, he's also saying that Oba Femi, when he sees Brock Lesnar ready for a fight, that he's not going to be the same Oba Femi that we've seen come down to the ring so far. That Oba Femi is going to start basically shitting his pants, crying like a little girl, whatever the case might be. And you know what that does? That brings out Oba Femi. And Oba Femi comes down, and it immediately causes everybody else to come down. And when I say everybody else, I guess it wouldn't be Madison Square Garden if we didn't get a Triple H appearance on camera, because after Adam Pearce gets thrown across the outside area, Triple H by the way, doesn't even come out of Gorilla. Somehow he comes from the other direction. Comes out, and he's sitting there trying to stop the fight from happening, and he is the one that gets Brock Lesnar to back down from starting a brawl between the two. But again, before that happened, Obafemi got to throw all the part-time workers as well as Adam Pearce around. Adam Pearce later said that he's levied out fines, but the fines should only have gone to Obafemi here because Brock Lesnar didn't actually hit anybody this week. This segment got an A, and it's weird to me because you would think that with Stephanie McMahon having Cody Rhodes put his hand on her, even though she got the upper hand by slapping him, that would have been what would have brought Triple H out from the back. But no, Triple H let his wife handle her own business with the heavyweight champion, and he came out with his pacemaker to stand between the two behemoths. So, and Bleacher Report even said, Triple H, king of the overwhelmingly negative crowd reactions. The magic of the Lesnar character is that the Beast for so long allowed Heyman to do all of the talking for him, and that when he does grab the microphone, it carries even more gravity. And I have to agree, because when he grabbed the microphone from Paul and Paul looked scared and Brock said, "Get your ass down here," it makes you want the match even more. And by the way, in Madison Square Garden, that was probably the loudest reaction that anybody's had since Austin came down and helped Mick Foley win the World Championship. Then, like I said, we got the pre-tape promo between Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio, which is disappointing, which brought up our Intercontinental title match. Intercontinental title match between Penta and Kofi Kingston. During it, Kofi Kingston and Grayson Waller had interactions with each other that kind of blew up the match, and Penta ends up getting the win. And after the match, Penta has Jackie Redmond in the ring with him, I believe. Yes, it's definitely Jackie Redmond. Has Jackie Redmond in the ring with him and announces to the world that he got his wish, and the Intercontinental Championship will be defended at WrestleMania, but not just at WrestleMania. It'll be defended in an Intercontinental ladder match. So I believe it's a 5-way ladder match, and I believe they've announced who's in it. We've got Michael Turner saying that Ova will beat Brock Lesnar. I think you are right. We will get more down that next week, though. Michael Cole noted that a win for Kofi Kingston would give him his first Intercontinental Championship in 14 years. He hasn't held it since 2012. Think about that, folks. Then, because Brock Lesnar, I guess, cut him off earlier, Paul Heyman tells Adam Pearce that he's going back to the ring and he's going to really hate what he has to say this time. And he goes down to the ring and he starts talking about Seth Rollins. And here's where it gets interesting, because Seth Rollins comes down. I believe he actually did hit Paul Heyman in the back again. But when Heyman, he also added that the architect is medically cleared to compete, a fact that Heyman did take by surprise. Not as much, though, as the steel chair that cracked him in the back. So, yeah, he did get hit in the back again. Rollins teased a stomp onto the steel chair, but out of nowhere, another hooded man came out. This time, it was not Braun Breaker, even though he's apparently cleared to wrestle. It was Gunther. So I guess they're holding off Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania so they can give Gunther something to do because Rey Mysterio is out injured. So I don't hate that because, as my buddy Jay and I said, as we talked to each other Tuesday night afterwards, WWE has given themselves basically a match that could steal the show at WrestleMania. I just hope it's not a snooze fest where Gunther keeps putting on a sleeper hold. We'll see, but I'm just hoping it's not that. But Gunther pointed at the sign. Somehow Gunther got busted up somehow. And we've got Rollins versus Gunther at Mania. Then we got Io Sky versus Raquel Rodriguez. The match was fine, but this week, Peter Rosenberg, who works for WWE on their pre-shows and post-shows, talked about how the suicide dive is one of the scariest moves to do and one that fans don't pop for. And I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this because I thought every point he made was valid. This is a guy who works for WWE. He commentates on Evolve. He talks to the new people as they come in. He's gained respect without ever taking a bump. Is he as respected as a former wrestler who's a trainer? No. Does he deserve the respect of somebody that knows and understands the business? Absolutely. He has made a career out of listening to the crowd reaction. And he would know better than almost anybody except for the competitors in the ring that when you do a suicide dive, it doesn't get the pop it used to. And the number one reason why it doesn't is because 5 to 10 of them are done every single night. What makes it even worse when it's Io Sky's is it's through the middle rope. So, Michael, it not getting a pop is because it doesn't get the same reaction it used to. And here's something that blew me away when I was listening to Rosenberg talk about this. He took a phone call, and the caller actually mentioned that the suicide dive used to mean something, but now all it means is that it's either brought to you by a sponsor or it's what takes you to commercial. And he's 100% right. Like, every time we see a suicide dive, they are going to commercial because it's the blow up spot where everybody's down on the mat or on the ground and nobody is doing anything. So they go to commercial for 3 minutes. He's 100% right. So I kind of agree. I think that this is something where the agents should sit there and tell their wrestlers, you don't need it every match. In fact, I would only do it on PLEs where you're actually trying to make the money. Your career is going to last longer. And specifically, for anybody who didn't see Io Sky's, her head looked like it came clean off. And yet somehow she got up. She definitely looked dinged. And somehow did finish the match. But this could have been very, very bad for Io Sky. And Raquel Rodriguez got the win. She hit the Tejana bomb. And then to end Monday Night Raw, we got CM Punk and Roman Reigns back in the same ring. And this time they decided, fuck talking. And when both of them got into the ring, it just became a brawl, another pull apart. This is the third pull apart. Well, I guess the second pull apart of the night on Raw. But you know, the second time they had to pull the two guys apart, this was the time that they actually got fighting in. And I do think that they're doing everything they can to sell this match, which the fact that they're leaving it alone, really, and just letting the two of them build up their own match is saying something. Because when we talk about SmackDown, I'm going to have some harsh words. So I'm now going to talk about NXT Stand and Deliver because normally when we have a PLE, we don't talk about the regular show. We just talk about the results of the PLE. So that's what I'm going to do here. This did take place Saturday night. The card. Now, this is how you pack a card. Birthright versus Hank Tank, Eli Knight, Shiloh Hill, and Rin Sinclair. So a mixed person tag team pre-show match. Then we had Vanity Project versus Los Americanos for the NXT Tag Championships. Miles Bourne versus Johnny Gargano for the Men's North American Championship. Zarya versus Sol Ruka, We're Not Friends Anymore. Tatum Paxley versus Blake Monroe for the Women's North American Championship. JC Jane versus Lola Vice versus Kendall Gray for the NXT Women's Championship. And a four-way dance for the Men's Championship. Joe Hendry, Tony D'Angelo, Ricky Saints, and Ethan Page. That is a stacked NXT card. I mean, again, knowing how many women actually get utilized on these shows is ridiculous because, once again, it just shows how good the NXT women's division is. So the 10-person mixed tag match, the only thing really to come out of that was that Ren Sinclair got to beat Charlie Dempsey down, which was pretty awesome. So if you hadn't seen that, totally worth it. And Birthright lost to Hank Tank, Shiloh, Prosper, and Ren Sinclair. Which, okay, I'd been talking about this for a while. There's another thing that I just mentioned, Prosper, right? So Eli Knight was the name of him going into this match, and NXT did what it likes to do, which is change up their name. So Eli Knight, which is a little close to LA Knight, is now going to be EK Prosper. So keep that in mind. Changing Eli Knight's name after it was already been on television several times is not ideal, but the name he ended up with could have been much worse. And of course, Booker T messed up the name immediately. Here's where I thought it got interesting. The very first match on the card was the women's NXT Championship match. So JC Jane, Lola Vice, Kendall Gray. Now, we've been talking about Kendall Gray being as good as she is for a while now. JC Jane is a longtime champion in NXT, and Lola Vice has been, well, every man's vice for a while because they just can't get enough of her. Shawn Michaels kicked off the show with a speech before introducing Sexy Red, the host of the show. After several video packages and hypes, the show began with the match. Fallon Henley, Laney Reed, and Sinclair were all at ringside, but Vice was all alone. JC Jane was sent out to the ring by her two challengers before Vice and Gray started fighting each other. Obviously, just recently they had that match that ended in controversy, which is why they made this a three-way, or a triple threat, as they call them in WWE. And even with no disqualifications, it was nice to see the women at ringside staying out of the majority of the action so that the three women could work in the ring. Totally agree. This match ended with Lola Vice picking up the victory and becoming NXT Women's Champion. Michael Turner, you are a fan of the women's division. What is your take on Lola Vice going over in the match? And by the way, anybody else in the audience as well, feel free to comment so that I can actually pull up your comments and retort to those too. Doing this single-handedly, I definitely like hearing the comments so that I can chime in. WWE actually decided not to put Mr. Iguana in Lola Vice's corner here when they probably could have. Layeska could have definitely been used here. Next matchup was the Vanity Project versus Los Americanos for the NXT tag team champions. And I was a little shocked to see Vanity Project go over here. El Grande Americano slipped the metal plate into Ryo to put it in his mask, but Smokes ended up taking it from him while the ref was distracted and put it in his trunks. Bravo tripped him on the top rope, and it was implied that the metal plate caused extra damage. Both teams came close to winning several times, like they normally do. But Jackson Drake helped his team win. Then we got the grudge match. Sol Ruca versus Zarya. I'll use Bleacher Report's statement here. The two friends and tag team partners met for a grudge match when Sol Ruca faced Zarya. This breakup and showdown have been simmering for months, so there was a lot of pressure on them to pay off. Ruca hit the Soul Snatcher on the steel ramp, and then another one in the ring, and Zarya still managed to kick out. Michael, I completely agree. I think that now we're actually going to see them try to come up with something for JC. I would like to see it be, night or Friday after WrestleMania. That way they can actually jump right into programs and right into feuds. But it remains to be seen exactly when they do it. I would assume that at WrestleMania during like the women's title match, you'll see like JC Jane in the audience. Now, the Sol Ruca Zarya match, I and Tino probably, because he's not here, were probably shocked to see that Sol Ruca went over here. We thought that Zarya was going to get a win because she needed it, and yet WWE continued to push Sol Ruca as if she's the Undertaker at WrestleMania. Miles Bourne versus Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano looks like he was dressed as the Punisher for this one, so I'm okay with that. I love his comic book gear that he likes to bring out. This match was solid. I did like that Johnny incorporated his new "I'm just going to fall flat on my face in the middle of the ring and be down and let you try to figure out how to get me." But of all things, after Miles Bourne got the victory here, which is sad for Johnny because, obviously Johnny loves the NXT brand, so he's willing to help out anytime they want him. But he can't always lose when he goes back down. He's got to win some matches. But Dion Lennox attacked Miles Bourne. That's part of the problem with not. Yeah, I'm not even going to go with the joke. I'm just gonna move on. WWE does need to give Johnny. Well, I think so. Bleacher Report said that they need to give Johnny Gargano his Rebel Heart song back, and I would agree, unless he's going to lose. If he's going to lose, don't let him lose with that song. Go ahead and let him win. Tatum Paxley versus Blake Monroe for the North American Championship, and Tatum Paxley gets the win here. I like the call of Tatum going over. I don't think Blake needed this win. I do think Blake needs to go on a little bit of a roll with some victories going forward, because otherwise she's going to lose all of whatever she's got going on for her. Because Paxley kicked out of her glamour shot and then hit her with her own finisher. Whew. Oh, sorry. That kind of burned my throat a little bit. Then we got our finale. Joe Hendry versus Ricky Saints versus Ethan Page versus Tony D'Angelo for the men's NXT championship in a ladder match. I believe it was a ladder match, wasn't it? Oh, no, just a fatal four-way. Just a fatal four-way. And I want to go ahead and clap a little bit for Mr. Tony D'Angelo, who through it all in like his 4 years in NXT now, I want to say it's 4 years, he is now the first person in NXT history to hold the Heritage Cup, the North American Championship, the Tag Team Championships, and now the NXT Heavyweight Championship. So he is an NXT Grand Slam champion on the same night. Well, I guess he already was a triple. Well, the Triple Crown is going to be Tag Team North American and Heavyweight Championship. So he became both on the same night. Now passing Johnny Gargano as the only Grand Slam champion. Bleacher Report liked the show. I did too. But we're going to move on to the next thing. Dynamite and Collision. And folks, you hear Tino talk shit to me quite a bit because I spoil things for him. Well, Tino knows that on Wednesday night I am not home, so I have to watch Dynamite later. And Madonna's, you're gonna have to like tell me what are you trying to ask? Are they better in? Because obviously we're talking about getting ready to talk about Dynamite and Collision, but I'm willing to answer your question if you have a specific way that you want to know which one's better. Because as an actual powerhouse, Brock Lesnar is better. The guy is a former UFC and NCAA wrestling champion. So I mean, like when you're talking about legitimate sport, Brock Lesnar definitely has that hands down. When you're talking about the total package of being a sports entertainer, like in WWE, you got to give that to John Cena because Brock Lesnar's typically needed a mouthpiece for him. Obviously, John Cena is the never seen 17. He's won the world championship 17 times. He is a Grand Slam champion, whereas I don't know if Brock Lesnar has ever been U.S. or Intercontinental champion. I don't think that they've ever wanted to put the Intercontinental or the U.S. title on him. I don't think he's ever been tag team champion. So when you actually ask the question of who is better when it comes to John Cena or Brock Lesnar, it depends on what you're asking and how you're asking the question. So hopefully that helps. I mean, like I said, Brock Lesnar being a legitimate badass by winning the UFC Heavyweight Championship, as well as being, I believe, a 2-time NCAA champion, shows that he can throw around anybody whenever he wants. I appreciate you saying you're a big fan. You can always buy our merch. We're going to go into our discussions next week about the actual WrestleMania card. But I mean, as of right now, as someone who looks at the business from an actual business standpoint, and knowing that outcomes are, predetermined, and these guys just fight it out in the ring until who's supposed to wins the match, it makes more sense for Obafemi to win. And I think Michael Turner was saying that earlier. I'm saying that as well. The idea there is Obafemi's going to be there 2 years from now, and you're going to want him to be the next Brock Lesnar. But I could also see them putting Brock Lesnar over in this match so that he gets the big PLE payoff, whereas then they go ahead and they do Backlash or something, and Brock Lesnar faces Obafemi again, and Obafemi gets the win there. I would say that more likely I go ahead and I give the match to Obafemi, because again, he's going to be there, you know. As Brock Lesnar starts winding down on his career, probably ending it at SummerSlam, if not at next year's WrestleMania, because I mean, with it in Saudi Arabia, they can always bring him back for another run there. It just makes sense that as he's on his way down, you have Obafemi get the win, and then you have Brock Lesnar just, you know, go ballistic after the match or whatever. And that allows both of them to maintain their spot where they are, with Brock Lesnar being an uncontrollable beast and Obafemi being the next guy in. So hopefully that answers your question. And again, thanks for saying you're a fan. We definitely appreciate that. Now, as we get into AEW, the show starts off with Tony Schiavone in the middle of the ring, and randomly pyro starts going off, and they're in Vancouver, British Columbia. No, Winnipeg. I'm sorry, not Vancouver. They're in Winnipeg, and pyro starts going off, and it seems like it's just a malfunction and not supposed to be what's going on. And then suddenly we hear a song we haven't heard in just about a year. Actually, it's been even longer since we heard the song, but it's been about a year since we saw the man, because Chris Jericho is back, baby. Now, Tino, as I mentioned, spoiled this for me. He sits there and on a Wednesday night at 10 o'clock messages me, Jericho looks great, but he's got that Kofi Kingston chest thing. And for those that don't know, both of them have had their actual chest muscles collapse. So they really can't grow pectoral muscles anymore. Jericho's, I believe, was actually from getting slapped by the Big Show, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so Jericho is in phenomenal shape. And the joke there is that everyone's saying that Jericho was getting himself in WWE shape. And then when that fell through, was already in good enough shape, might as well come back, collect the payday from AEW. And we get the man from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, back in his hometown. And immediately they cut to the crowd, and his dad and his mom and his family are there. And it's like, come on, who didn't know that Jericho was making a comeback tonight if they're standing there in the front row of the audience? And it was obviously his dad. So anyway, great feel-good moment for Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho's back. He says, I'm home, which implies, and I was going to really want to have a conversation with Tino about this. Did he think that this is going to be like him just running out his dates with AEW? Or is it a new contract? And rumor is this is a new contract, which will keep Jericho there until he retires. You know, WWE was hoping to put Jericho on the Gunther train, but now it looks like Michael, come on. That's not true. I'm sure I'll say something good about some of this stuff, but I'm happy to see Jericho back, especially if they use him correctly. I hope it's not this learning tree bullshit that he left with. I don't think it will be. I think that Jericho is back as a babyface, and it'll be interesting to see how they put him into the picture. Swerve Strickland versus Kenny Omega. Now, you guys heard me talk about this last week. This was one of those matches where I totally made fun of it, specifically because Kenny Omega had already had his EVP-ness stripped from him. But this is basically whoever wins is the number one contender and the EVP. Hell of a match, and Kenny Omega goes over. So I'm sure Dave Meltzer gave this 6 stars. Bleach Report gave it an A-. Both of these guys went all out. I would say that it wasn't as good as their first encounter, but it was a really solid match. So this then brought up a little segment with Will Ospreay looking like he's backstage, and he just said, "I want you at Dynasty, motherfucker," about Jon Moxley. Then they showed him in the back a little bit later beating up someone, and then he got jumped by all of the Death Riders. I have no interest in this match because I am tired of Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, and this unfortunately is the feud they want to put. They want to put Will Ospreay in, most likely, so Ospreay can go after the world title afterwards, likely at Wembley Stadium. Death Riders versus Skyflight. I didn't really expect Skyflight to have any chance. They did not. Oh. I am reading the right weeks, right? Like this was that's from March 25th. That was last week. Or was it? No, I'm looking at the wrong one. Hold on a second, folks. I'm talking about the wrong. No. I got the Jericho thing right, but it should be from like 3:30 or something, shouldn't it? Maybe even April 1st. I think it was April 1st. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm reading off the wrong shit. Sorry. See what happens when I go away for a couple days. So we do start the show with Chris Jericho. Already talked about that. But then we get the contract signing for MJF versus Kenny Omega, which does not end in the two of them beating the hell out of each other or anything. This is when we got Will Ospreay beating on Jon Moxley backstage before they say officials broke it up, but it really was the Death Riders that broke the whole thing up. Then, for some reason, randomly, we get Kenny Omega, Brody King, and Jack Perry versus The Demand. Now, I get The Demand going against Jack Perry because Jack Perry won the title off of Ricochet, but I don't understand Kenny Omega being part of this match, especially since he's got a world title match coming up. But Kenny Omega, Brody King, and Jack Perry go over. Jack Perry disappeared for long periods of time during this match, and it's always fun to see Brody King. So Will Ospreay on his death march against the Death Riders goes up against Pac here. Talked about it last week where Will Ospreay's first match back, he had that kinesio tape on his neck. He still does. Pac sat there and did some serious damage to this guy's neck, and it literally just looks like a boss battle in a Capcom video game where all the spots, like in Resident Evil, it'll be an eyeball, but like in other games, it's always been like a big yellow and orange spot on them that you have to hit. That's exactly what this was. Ospreay gets the win by hitting the hidden blade, but I mean, as good as these matches are, Ospreay's not 100%. They shouldn't have him out there yet. Guy just had neck surgery. They show Adam Copeland and Christian Cage walking in from outside, and they're basically like, we're not going to let anybody step in front of us. And Renee Paquette comes out and wants to talk to them, and Christian goes to hit her with the chair because he's like, nobody's allowed to get in front of us. And then they go backstage and they see Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta. And this is where last week I said that Mike Bailey, the only person lower on the card than him, is Rocky Romero. Rocky Romero in the backstage area in a changing room gets beat down. So Brawling Birds and Mina Shirakawa versus Triangle of Madness. Don't really care. The Brawling Birds and Shirakawa end up winning the match. Just looks like they're holding in a holding pattern on the women's division for a lot of the stuff right now, mainly because Monet's out, Toni Storm's out, so who knows what they're really thinking and doing here. Remember how I was talking about Mike Speedball Bailey? Well, during that conversation with Kenny Omega, Speedball and MJF got into it, which leads to the Barry Horowitz of today being in the ring with the world champion. And while Speedball is definitely better than Barry Horowitz, he gets about as many wins. Wednesday's edition of Dynamite did not have as many matches as they normally do, which is good. It means they kind of lean on that stuff a little bit more, which is kind of nice. But we're going to talk about what I'll consider the final show of the week, which was SmackDown from April 3rd. Now, this is where I might not have as much fun talking about this. Show starts with Randy Orton coming out. This segment was like 15 minutes long, it felt. Maybe even a little bit longer. He comes out and says that he's glad to be in St. Louis, but St. Louis isn't his real home. His home are the people in the front row, which are his family. And then he basically calls out. So police report says that he called out his family in the front row, and doing so came across as more of a babyface promo than anything else. He tried to add some heel lines. It was funny because it really felt like Randy Orton is on that timeline of everything he does is just going to get cheered now. Specifically, he sat there and ragged about the town, and they cheered him. And then he talked about his family, and they cheered him. Oh, you want me to rant on SmackDown, Michael? Because that's about to come. Cody Rhodes gets in the ring. Cody Rhodes is ready to have a fight. And out of nowhere, Pat McAfee shows up. And he kicks him right in the balls. And after he kicks him in the balls, he grabs a microphone and calls Nick Aldis a wannabe Adam Pearce. Says something else. A non-American Adam Pearce or something like that. And then he goes on a very stooge promo running down the product, saying it's never been as good as it was during the Attitude Era, which is funny because neither of the wrestlers involved in this match are from the Attitude Era. They're both from the Ruthless Aggression era, with Cody being on the late side of that. And throughout it all, it was just McAfee trying to get heel heat while yelling at Randy to hit him, because Cody was still on the ground. Randy had a chair, and every time Cody went to get up, Randy would hit him with the chair. We then get that McAfee was the guy on the other line. Now, this is something that no one in the industry expected. No one in the industry actually played up to. No one in the industry on the pundit side, like myself, ever actually thought it would be Pat McAfee, because just a couple weeks ago, Pat McAfee said that the WWE has passed him by. So they no longer needed him. And yet here he is just a couple weeks later, coming out and being the guy on the other side of the phone, which when I said it should be Kevin Owens, I said you can at least pass off the there's more than one royal family by saying that Kevin Owens said that to Randy so that Randy remembered that his family was a royal family in professional wrestling as well. And there was story behind it. You had Kevin Owens and Randy Orton as a tag team before Kevin Owens turned on Cody Rhodes and even was supposed to face Randy Orton at WrestleMania last year. So as Randy Orton starts going heel, he would start agreeing with Kevin Owens. That makes sense. I could see it being Ric Flair. Ric Flair has history with both men by beating Cody's dad and by training Randy Orton as part of Evolution. Could have seen that. Could have seen it being nobody on the other side of the phone, which really would have gotten a bad reaction, which finally would have gotten Randy booed, which would have been okay, but it would have been booing for not being able to pay the story off, not for Randy being the best heel in the business. But the Pat McAfee thing comes across as a TKO play. And for those that have been paying attention, TKO normally doesn't get involved in WWE business. But going into WrestleMania, which will be the first WrestleMania on ESPN and the ESPN app, they're down in ticket sales. And they're down big in ticket sales. And it's not because the WrestleMania card is weak. Most of it is because WrestleMania ticket prices are strong. Too strong for the American pocket. Not to mention the second year in a row at the same venue probably isn't the best way to do things like that. They would have went to New Orleans, if they would have went to Indianapolis, they would have filled a 60 to 70,000 person arena, and it would have been different. So people would have enjoyed it. Hell, I might have considered going to Indianapolis just so I could go back to St. Elmo up there. A wonderful steakhouse. Absolutely incredible. If you've never been, you absolutely should make a trip to it. So McAfee is back, and all of the pundits now are saying that this was something directed at WWE by TKO. Ari Emanuel, the head of TKO, by the way, everyone, is Pat McAfee's sports agent. So Pat McAfee gets his new contracts and everything from Ari Emanuel. They are also saying that the promo that McAfee cut was scripted, though I would assume that McAfee was given some ability to say what he wanted because that's who Pat McAfee is. This led to %, Michael. And you know, like TKO ought to be hoping that they get as many people to watch on ESPN as they possibly can, so that they make sure that deal with them is in high regard. But unfortunately, I think now at this point, more people are trying to do the VPN thing and watching it on Netflix if they can. But with this, I have to ask this. So here's, and I am gonna use something that I heard on Busted Open. I want to give them credit so that they don't sit there and say, "Oh, now we've got people just stealing what we said." I do want to give credit where due. I know Tino hates when I do that because we don't get paid by them or anything. But earlier today, Bully Ray actually did mention that this would have been easy to sell with McAfee coming back and being part of Randy Orton's crew to take down Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes canceled the day of an appearance on the Pat McAfee show. If you had made that part of your story, it makes sense. Without that, Pat McAfee makes no sense at all in this situation, except from the business aspect of being able to talk about WrestleMania for the next 2 weeks on your show. Because most likely they were going to have WWE people showing up on the Pat McAfee show anyway. But now Pat McAfee himself will be able to talk about it for the extended period of time that he is on the air every day. So I don't hate that move for it, but the rumor is that TKO basically jumped in similar to how they did at WrestleMania 40, trying to change Cody winning the Rumble into Roman Reigns versus The Rock. And now they're doing it again by adding Pat McAfee to this. Oh, Michael. So Michael's saying that they've got problems with the fans, and they do 100, yeah, without a doubt. And we all know that. We all know that TKO's got problems with the fans because they don't understand their own business enough to price it correctly for us to go to events. We just talked about that. But at the same time, this led to apparently the final segment of the night where Cody was told to go to the ring in the last 5 minutes and retort to it all. And Cody went down to the ring and cut a fiery promo that included lines that I'm paraphrasing. I'm not going to say that I'm direct quoting, but paraphrasing, he said, I know why Pat's here, and I know who he represents back there. And then he said, and if you don't like what I have to say, go ahead and fire me. Look at what that did last time, implying Cody Rhodes went off and started another wrestling company and was so popular with it that WWE made sure that he was the first major person that they brought back to the WWE fold, and now he's your world champion. But Cody said they should have left it alone and allowed it to be a match between two men with 20 years of history, which is funny because on the other side of it, on the Raw side, that's exactly what they did. They left two guys with 15 years of history alone to run that main event match. And they didn't give Cody the same. And I think if you wanted McAfee to sit there and talk about WrestleMania every week for the past 3 or 4 weeks, or for the last 2 weeks before WrestleMania, just have him be the host of the co-host of WrestleMania with John Cena. Then he can still be a babyface. Now he's going to be talking shit about WWE because he literally talked about how bad the storylines have been. Pretty ballsy move on everybody's part, especially if it was Triple H and Cody making the decision to send Cody out there to rip the company a new one there. So now we're going to go back to just the results. Michin versus Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley gets the win and then gets beaten down until Io Sky makes the save. Then we had Tama Tonga versus Uncle Howdy. Don't really know why this match even happened, except at the end of it, Solo Sikoa came down with the lamp. Tama Tonga took the lamp and just gave it back to Uncle Howdy after losing the match. Definitely looks like either at WrestleMania or after WrestleMania, we're going to have the MFT breakup. Trick Williams and Sami Zayn hype WrestleMania until, well, I want to go ahead and say they went out there to hype WrestleMania, and Little Yachty just kept sitting there and saying what every time that Trick's music was playing instead of yeah, I like it. He literally was just doing the Stone Cold Steve Austin what line. But this brought Carmelo Hayes out. Carmelo said that he wants to have another match, a rematch with Sammy. Sammy sits there, tells him he can't have the rematch this week because he's already booked for WrestleMania. Trick sits there and tries to trick him into accepting the match, but then Sammy just goes, you know what? No, I take it back. I changed my mind. Let's have the match tonight. So we get to run back last week's championship match. Fatu gave a promo directed at McIntyre. Sami Zayn was getting booed and called Sammy Hogan. I want to point out to everyone, do I think they did Carmelo dirty? Yes. Do I think that's Sami Zayn's fault? No. Calling Sammy Hogan is really, really mean and undeserved because Sammy is just going out there and doing his job. And now they're booing him. I mean, we're obviously thinking he's going to turn heel shortly anyway. But to call him Sammy Hogan, I just think is just mean, wrong. And for a guy who has put everyone over and for years was always the bridesmaid and never the champion, I hate you, St. Louis. That's all I'll say. Matt Cardona calls for a match with Aleister Black. Aleister Black beats him. Mainly because Cardona is still trying to sell the bad arm. And I did like earlier this week, I heard Mark Henry say that well, so Michael, you're right. Sammy doesn't need a title, but it's not Sammy's fault that Sammy got the U.S. title. It's the booking team's fault. The match with Trick Williams at WrestleMania should have just been a singles match. It doesn't need a title involved, but the booking committee there decided, oh, we should make this a title match. So we're going to take the belt off of a guy who's been running things for 4 months. Stupid. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria versus Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. I am glad Alexa Bliss got a victory. I am disappointed that WWE made it against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Michael, you're going to make me get into an argument with you. Sami Zayn is a former main eventer of WrestleMania. You can't tell me he's not good. In the ring, he's one of the absolute best. Hands down, bar none. And when he's given chicken shit, he makes it into chicken salad almost every time. The fact that he's never been world champion when he was the hottest thing going into WrestleMania 39 is fucking ridiculous. Just want to remind you of that. Well, 38, I think, is when he was the hottest thing going. 39 was when he was in the tag team with Kevin Owens and actually main evented at WrestleMania. But yeah, so Alexa Bliss finally gets a win. And again, it's just jobbing out Bayley and Lyra, which makes me think they're going to win the titles coming up. R-Truth, Johnny Gargano, and Candice LeRae had a quick backstage segment that was funny. R-Truth and Damian Priest versus Kit Wilson and The Miz. This is our first action of Danhausen in the ring. Although he's not actually part of the match. He tried to get The Miz to tag him in. Miz wouldn't tag him in. So guess who did? R-Truth. And shortly thereafter, Danhausen goes to curse The Miz. The Miz pulls the referee in the way. And then the ref somehow can't count to 3. It's a big comedy bit. It's fine for what it was. Made people laugh. Danhausen actually went backstage and uncursed the referee because he said it was on Danhausen, even though he normally charges money to do that. Then we got the men's U.S. title match, Sami Zayn versus Carmelo Hayes, which once again included a suicide dive. This match pretty much went the same exact way as last week, except Trick didn't really get involved. Williams attacked Zayn after the match, and Yachty joined in to help him. So Sami Zayn defeated Carmelo Hayes. So Michael, this is a great question. He's asking why would they put the tag titles on Bayley and Lyra, even though Bayley has not signed a new contract with WWE. I think it's because, well, one, the tag team titles never mean as much in WWE as they do anywhere else. So if you want to give somebody something to just sit there and go, hey, great job for the past couple months, you put them in a tag team like AJ Styles, which I still think was trash that they gave AJ Styles a tag team title rather than giving another run with the world title. But that's pretty much why. I think that their transition titles, I don't know when Bayley's contract is actually up. I have heard that she hasn't re-signed a new contract. She's even talking about not wanting to re-sign a contract. But I mean, her time with Lyra, they work well together, so I don't have a problem with them actually putting the belts on them again. And seeing them on both programs, you know, that they're one of those teams that's fun to watch. So yeah, the night ends. You get the so here's what's weird. Trick Williams attacked Zayn after the match, and Yachty joined to help him. Cody Rhodes attacked Wilson after his tag match, and then ranted about Orton and McAfee. Oh, so that happened before the main event. My bad. Hayes might be the only person who can make mustard yellow look cool. That's pretty funny. That's what he was wearing. So Michael, I would say that I agree that WWE needs Bayley more than Bayley needs WWE, because Bayley could go to AEW and both tag team with Mercedes Moné, or she could feud against Mercedes Moné. You know, and Bayley has started her own wrestling school, so the WWE kind of needs her there too, because WWE signs those schools to you know, like Booker T's school and Cody Rhodes' school. Those are direct pipelines to WWE programming now. So like to me, it makes sense that you want to keep her, because she's actually, and she focuses mainly on just female wrestling. So getting new women into the wrestling business and teaching them the right ways to keep your body healthy and learn match psychology. Because I mean, when you look at the matches that her and Sasha Banks had back in the day, the ring psychology was like Brett and Shawn. You know, they were that good back then. You know, now, you know, you're bringing up new people. You're trying to work everybody in. So, but yeah, I think WWE needs Bayley. I just, with her, how long has it been since she was world champion? Since the Ding Dong Hello days? Probably. That's like 4 years ago now. So all things considered, I would say that, yeah, they gotta really pony up for her. But she's done everything. She's done everything except main event of WrestleMania. And I hate to say it, there hasn't been a women's storyline really since Bianca Belair, and was it Bianca and Sasha? I think it was. So since they main evented night one, I don't think there's been a feud or anything as good as that since. So it's hard to say that the women are going to main event again. Whereas, and I will say this, I don't believe the women have main evented any pay-per-view for Tony Khan's company yet. And if they did, it was Tony Storm versus Blake Monroe when she was Mariah May. But I don't think they did. So I think that we go back to the idea that the only thing she hasn't done is main event the major pay-per-views, and I don't really see that happening. So she's done everything she can in WWE. So she just has to make the decision of, does she want to be there longer? Anyways. That's pretty much everything tonight, folks. I'm going to look to see if there's anything I missed. I want to remind everybody that we have this tpublic.com/user/Rob Potsy Potchak. If you go to that, you can order any of the Potsy and Tino shirts that are currently available, including the one with the logo up in the top right corner over here. Boom. Or the one that I am currently wearing. There are a couple other designs up there too. I believe there's one that looks like Jackie Brown's movie poster, things like that. So, and then of course, if you can help out with the RingoAwards.com Zor for Best Kids Book 11 and Under, as well as Best Short Story. It's called Zor Saves Christmas, if you want to get the name right on it to make sure that you put it up for the right award. And then, of course, Died Hard for Best Humor Comic. That would really help me out. You know, I'd love to be up for at least one, if not two awards, maybe even three, if possible. That way we've got more and more chances to win. The books have been good, so I hope everybody's enjoyed them. We got Monday Night Raw going on right now. I have not started it, so I will be headed downstairs to go watch that in just a moment. But I did once again want to go ahead and say thank you, everybody, for everything you do for our show. It really does bring out the best in us. Next week is our 450th episode. I am asking people if they want to be part of it to give their predictions for the show. For WrestleMania. And I do have one more thing that I am going to go over with everyone before we get out of here. If I can find it. Where is it? One more thing. Where did it go? Here it is. Last thing we'll go over is the WrestleMania card so far. So, I'm going to start at what they have at the bottom and work my way to the top two championship matches. Yes, sir. Thank you, Michael 99 Jones. But we do have the WrestleMania card thus far. So, first up, and again, tomorrow, 9:35 a.m. on ESPN's First Take, Joe Tessitore will be on there to announce which matches are on what night. So, Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio is what they've got listed first. Then you have the Women's Tag Team Championship match, which is the current champions, Nia Jax and Lash Legend, versus Charlotte and Alexa, the Bella Twins, and Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Part of the reason why I think Bayley and Lyra are going to win is because, once again, they've now lost, I think, all of those teams. The ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, currently held by Penta, Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, and Rusev in a ladder match. Rusev versus all of those little guys. This is like when Abyss used to go after the X Division Championship. All right, next up, the United States Championship match, Sami Zayn against Trick Williams. Now, I guess, with Little Yachty in his corner. So, okay. I'm okay with Little Yachty being in his corner just as long as he doesn't get involved. Women's Intercontinental Championship match, AJ Lee against Becky Lynch. I wonder if they add a stipulation to that match tonight. Then we have an unsanctioned match, Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu. Then we have that one that got announced last week with almost no buildup, Seth Rollins versus Gunther. Then we start getting to the big ones. Let's start with it. Brock Lesnar versus Oba Femi. I don't think they could have asked for a better buildup to this point. And I would say that Brock Lesnar needs to get his comeuppance either this week before that match takes place, so that we actually do think that Oba Femi is vulnerable. Women's World Champion, WWE Women's Champion Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley. This one's getting some build finally. It's looking interesting. We'll see. A lot of people think that it's Jade Cargill's last chance to really cement herself as a WWE women's wrestler. The women's world champion, Stephanie McCare versus Liv Morgan. I think they've done a hell of a job to get this match hyped up. And I think that this match is going to surprise a lot of people with the quality of it if they have the right chemistry. Finally, you got your last two. You got the undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes against Randy Orton. I expect this to be the Saturday night main event. But I have a theory. And then, of course, the World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk against Roman Reigns. Now, I said I have a theory, and the theory goes along with this. Are there issues? Is there issues? Are there? Is there? It's fine either way. Is there issues between TKO and WWE Creative? I don't think so. I think they want you to believe that there are. Obviously, it's a work. Sometimes it's a shoot in a work. But here's where it could get interesting. Let's say, for instance, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says he does not want to be part of this year's WrestleMania. Okay, that's why you ended up going with Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee and The Rock have been known to show up on the same night at the same time because they took the same flight. So, when Cody Rhodes is talking about TKO by not mentioning them but kind of implying them, does he mean Ari Emanuel or does he mean Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Because remember, they still have heat between the two of them. Mama Rhodes, tell Mama Rhodes I said hello. You know, all that stuff, beating him down, yelling F-bombs on Instagram and whatever. The final boss here could be who they're implying rather than going even higher up the food chain. And then allowing WWE Creative to be part of this and kind of imply that it might not be him. So if he says no, there's no payoff. They don't care. Ari Emanuel's not going to get in the fucking wrestling ring. But what if they're setting up the Saudi Arabia WrestleMania main event for next year? They're setting it up to where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, after Cody Rhodes loses to Randy Orton, comes out and beats him down again or whatever. They start a feud there with the payoff coming at WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia. Because if they did that, they have a full year where The Rock could not have to do anything right now. But, you know, after Moana comes out and he does all of his hyping for that and the new Jumanji movie or whatever, he could then go back into the role of the final boss. And then at WrestleMania next year, be the main event against Cody Rhodes to finally pay off that story, which would then say that was a 4-year booking story or a 3-year booking story, which is pretty awesome if you ask me. It also means that Cody can get as mad as he wants at the TKO board because The Rock is on the board. I don't know. I keep hearing everybody sit there and say that if The Rock was going to show up, that he should be in Cody's corner and all this bullshit. No, he should never be in Cody's corner. He should be corporate Rock. He should be the guy that's actually sitting there saying, the reason why I sent Pat was because I couldn't be there. But now I will be there next year, and I'm going to beat your ass. So, I don't know what everybody else thinks of that. That's what I've been thinking. I would have told Tino that, too, if he was here. If he watches this, he might see that. But anyways, folks, I am going to call it a night. I have had a blast talking with you. I hope you've had one with me. This has been the Potsy and Tino Show. You can follow him on his socials, either at Tino G Music, SC Tino, you know, whatever. But with me, it's Pochek on X or Twitter. You can go on just about everything else, and it's either Rob Pochak or Rob Potsy Pochak. Once again, the TeePublic site is tpublic.com/user/Rob Potsy Pochak. And there are some new shirts available. I will probably be working on new Potsy and Tino show shirts soon. With that said, folks, thank you so much. We will see you next week for our big blowout 450th episode of the Potsy and Tino show coming next week, 9/9. And for those out there, peace out, Jones. See you next week. Love you guys.
Ready? Yep. Ownership insurance in the Potsy and Tino.
For the Potsy and Tino show.
Thanks for watching.
Monday night, it's time to go. Turn on the screen, let the good times show. Wrestling life and who knows what. If it's cool or weird, they're talking it up. It's the Potsy and Tino show. From the